The name is Studios. Cinephile Studios. Okay, but really, it is about time I start talking about James Bond on this channel. A couple summers ago, I took the time to watch every single James Bond film in the so-called Eon canon, even though none of the films really have anything to do with one another. But I also watched the 1983 Orion Pictures produced film, May Dire May! Or Never Say Never Again. Yeah, I had to get this import because the one in America, the Blu-ray, for some reason goes for about $100. I don't know why. This one is way, way, way cheaper and will work in any Blu-ray player, basically. Any Region A Blu-ray player. That was nice. But all I have to say is, do not watch every single James Bond film in the course of a summer. You can watch them in release order. I think that is a good way to do it. And yeah, once you get to 83, watch this film along with Octopussy, but please don't try to cram it into a couple of months because a lot of the films start to meld together. I have trouble trying to distinguish which events happened in which film, and sometimes remembering the entire plots of certain films. But there are some films that stand out, like Casino Royale, Skyfall, Goldfinger, and For Your Eyes Only. But I think it's about time I rewatched the entire series. But in the meantime, Lukas over on Patreon asked me to review Never Say Never Again. So if you want to be like Lukas, you can go on my Patreon. You can request me to review any film you want that I haven't reviewed already. Yeah, and you'll get bonuses along with that. But for now, let's get to Never Say Never Again. Never, never, never say never again. Never, never say never again. In 1983, there were two James Bond films, Octopussy, a title that has aged like fine stinky cheese, and Never Say Never Again, from the director of the recent hit, Empire Strikes Back, Irving Kershner. The director alone spiked my intrigue, and the idea of making a film outside the official Eon series was unprecedented. Basically, Kevin McClory, who co-wrote Thunderball with Ian Fleming, got the rights to make his own version of the film based on the book. So with that, he went ahead and produced his own Thunderball film, but who cares if there's just a random James Bond film that has nothing to do with the official series? It's like the 1967 version of Casino Royale. But this movie had one thing to get the audiences to care, and that was Sean Connery, the original Bond, who swore he would never play Bond again, which is why the title just happens to be Never Say Never Again.
You unscrew it, then stick it up your nose. It's for my sinus.
Well, I won't need one of these where I'm going.
His return is probably the most interesting factor of this film, because it presents us with an aging Bond in a time where the 00 program is deemed unnecessary. It's a concept that would make for a great story, but it doesn't focus on it for too long. I guess we just have to wait for Skyfall to do a better version of the aging Bond.
What brings you to Nassau, James?
I'm fishing.
For what?
Anything I can get.
Sean Connery was never my favorite 007. I'm actually a bigger fan of Roger Moore and Daniel Craig, which I'm pretty sure is blasphemous to say, but I also think Connery becomes a better actor as he gets older, so seeing him back in this film is refreshing, since Roger Moore's series was going downhill at this point, and it's just nice to see Connery having fun in the role again, unlike in Diamonds Are Forever, where he was looking for the nearest exit.
This bomb has a tiny gyroscope inside. Any lateral movement on your part, and you could be served in an egg cup. If you understand what's being explained to you, nod gently.
The direction of this film is what you'd expect from Kershner. Well-paced action and great dialogue. Bond gets a bunch of funny one-liners. We get great casting in the form of Kim Basinger, who plays Domino, and Max von Sydow, who plays Blofeld. He's probably not as good as Donald Pleasance, if only because he has limited screen time, but the high-profile casting makes me question if they planned future sequels with Sydow returning, but we never got those, and in any case, we'd have to wait another 32 years before getting another appearance from Blofeld. This is why we have contracts, people. Kershner has a number of great decisions that just make this an overall better put together film than some of the other lesser James Bond films, like The World Is Not Enough or Thunderball. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just not a big fan of Thunderball from 1965. Or this story, mind you. I think it's probably one of the most boring ideas to come out of the James Bond mythos, so it disappoints me that we have to do yet another adaptation of this novel. But in any case, the film is at least a little better than the last one.
You know, there is a more beneficial therapy for a man's lower back.
Oh, really?
There's a great scene where Bond dances with Domino while telling her about Largo's true intentions. Or how about that fight scene that goes on for way too long? It's just great, and Connery's expressions and actions are classic Bond, definitely in character. Bond himself is just like he's always been, even if I don't quite buy that he'd be able to have the suaveness to get a girl like Domino, given that he's probably 30 years older. But besides that, Connery is continuing some of his best work from the original films. In fact, I think he might be at his best. It just sucks that we miss out on a lot of the classic Bond tropes, like the cars or the cool gadgets, which, yeah, they're in there, but it doesn't do it in the same way the other better Bond films do. Like, look at the jetpacks in this. Yeah. I like the guy that they got to play Felix, and Rowan Atkinson shows up for a quick cameo. The main villain, however, is pretty dull. Largo just doesn't do it for me, and I wish we could have had a film that had more of Blofeld or some better villain. I know it's meant to be an eccentric millionaire, but everything he does just seems really boring. There's supposed to be this intense fighting scene between him and Bond that involves a computer game. Okay, so this was the 80s, you know, computer games were all the rage. They were doing it with The Last Starfighter, they were doing it with war games, and now they have this. This is, wow, this is outdated. Even his death is pretty lame, which, let's talk about that ending. The whole movie has a wide array of great action scenes, even if there's way too much underwater diving. But then, the ending scene is just anticlimactic. It's all done underwater at a slow pace, and Largo's death happens while he's in a mask, and it kinda comes out of nowhere. That's just a terrible way to express any kind of emotion for the audience. But hey, at least we have Sean Connery, who makes it home to finally retire as he winks at the audience when saying he'll never again do another assignment. Yeah, we'll see about that. This is probably a better final outing for Sean Connery than Diamonds Are Forever was. But then again, I really like that goofy 1971 film, even though a lot of people say it's one of the worst. In my opinion, Bond is best when he's either cool or when he's silly. When he's just boring, you know, like those Pierce Brosnan films, but please don't shoot me about that. I honestly just don't like them. I find them pretty boring. But the point is, when Bond is boring, that's just it. It's just boring. And while this film is well made, it does feel like an outsider. It is an outsider because it's not part of the main series. But with that, you also lose any kind of continuing roles or distinct tone. If you didn't know this was a James Bond film, you'd probably think it's just any generic 80s action film that has way too many underwater scenes. Just like Thunderball, it has way too many underwater scenes. I would say it's a technically good film, has a lot of great cinematography merits to it. I find myself enjoying it, but I just don't think it has the charm that I find in the majority of other James Bond films. If it weren't for Irving Kershner, this movie probably wouldn't have had a chance.
Thank you for watching the video. A special thanks to Chris, Lukas, and Ryan for supporting me on Patreon. If you'd like to be like them and get exclusive access to content and blogs, and even request reviews monthly, please click on the Patreon link, and thanks for your support.
Never say never again.
Thank you very much.